Hello and welcome to the Hooligan Report for another week. I'm joined this time by Bojan KantKick.
Hi guys.
I'm also joined by Cooksen.
Hey guys.
And joining us in the lead up to the highly anticipated game, we've got Fryer Tuck along.
Coming to you from Jamie Vardy's pizza party.
Yeah, well, you finally got the pizza this week, didn't you?
And what a time to get that pizza. Jesus, that was a really, really tense last 10 minutes there.
Yeah, well, I mean, I was watching that game myself as a bit of scouting ahead of midweek, and a bit disappointed with the way you guys played in that first half. But obviously, Jamie Vardy and Riyad Mahrez came through in the end and got you the win, as they seem to do time and time again lately.
That duo is just unstoppable. You give them one chance and they'll strike upon you, and that's what they did right there. That was you saw the finish on that one. Just a slight touch over the keeper and then just puts it away. That was very nice.
It's the sort of touch you see on footballers when they're just on top of their form and on top of their confidence, where they just think everything's going to come off for them, and you can contrast it so much with Harry Kane. Well, at least with Harry Kane before this weekend, but. You can contrast with footballers when they're in form and out of form, and Jamie Vardy's certainly one who's in form at the moment.
Oh, definitely. He's just keeps banging them in. Ranieri's given him free reins of the team. They're all working for him, and it's paying off dividends very nicely. Playing to the strengths of the team, fast, free-flowing football. It's all coming together.
I think he's only the 5th Englishman to score 7 games in a row, and he's the 8th overall or something like that.
Yeah, that would be correct.
Yeah.
Against Watford, I think only 2 players have made it to 8 so far. 2 of them's Van Nistelrooy, so he's
and Sturridge is the other one, isn't it?
That's correct. Although technically he got the goal. He got his first goal before his ankle injury, and then he scored 7 there.
Right.
But he still got 8. That's still fantastic.
Pretty impressive. Now, what sort of... Because I've been wondering about this, because we've been joking the last few weeks about the various big sides coming in for Vardy with a big offer in January, and I understand that Ranieri has sort of said he's not for sale. What price would you be looking at before you would even contemplate actually selling him? Would there be a price?
I don't think there would be a price, to be honest. He is pretty much Leicester. He is the very definition of Leicester. You can offer 100 million for him, and honestly, that's not going to do us any good. To be honest, I know it's ridiculous. Look how Liverpool went with Suarez and Tottenham with Bale.
Yeah.
He's the sort of player that you really can't put a price tag on.
Heard it here first. Jamie Vardy as good as Suarez, as good as Bale. No, I do understand what you're saying, and I would agree. And it's what I said before. I mean, look, it's the theory, and I will defend it because I completely agree that better off with a bird in hand than 2 in the bush. You could get probably not 100, but you get a certain fee for him, and you're letting go of a proven goal scorer who's just bang in form, and you never know that what you're going to buy is actually going to be better or the same. It can just be a bunch of duds like Liverpool got, or indeed Spurs got as well.
Exactly right, and I don't think that's how the owners want. They want to build an image. They said top 6, and if you're getting rid of your top goal scorer, that goes against what they're standing for, and then you kind of become like a Southampton. Sure, you might get the quality, but you're not really going anywhere, and eventually we'll bite you on the backside, and yeah.
I'll ask all 3 of you this question then. And who's going to score more goals for the season? Is it going to be Jamie Vardy or is it going to be Anthony Martial?
It will be Jamie Vardy purely because Louis van Gaal. Well, I think Wayne Rooney has some dirt on Louis van Gaal, and Rooney's still playing, so Martial will continue on the left wing.
It'll be Vardy, but Martial will win Young Player of the Year. Guaranteed.
And Ballon d'Or.
Yeah. Then he'll be knighted. Then he'll become Pope.
Obviously, I'm going to say Vardy. He's he's absolutely been gunning it this season, and I think it will continue. Martial has got a lot of good years ahead of him, so he's going to be pretty exciting to watch.
I think that's definitely something in your favour about Vardy is that is he 29?
He's 28. I think he'll be turning 29 in January, if I recall correctly.
So in a lot of ways, his age is almost as much of a deterrent to other clubs coming in as any potential price that you'd accept. So there is a very good chance that he'll stay there because, as you say, the owners don't want to let him go. You don't want to let him go. It's one of those quite fortuitous situations, I suppose, for you guys, where you've got a player who's in such fantastic form. The other one, though, of course, is Mahrez, who's quite a bit younger, I believe, and he's had a few weeks off. He's had a few weeks on the sidelines, I guess, out of the spotlight. But his assist for Vardy again, and he's still this creative energy in your side. Would you anticipate any offers coming in for him?
I would expect that there would be some offers coming for him. I don't think he's quite ready yet. He did look a bit tired. I think it's a bit more about the management side of things. So I think Ranieri's just putting him on and off, trying to get the most performance out of him. So I expect probably later on we'll start seeing more consistent performances from him over the season. He will definitely get better.
Yeah. Okay. Fair enough. Yeah. Well, nevertheless, it's a great win for Leicester. And is it still it's one loss for the season?
That's correct.
So tracking on, it'll be 2 after midweek. But we'll move on now and chat about the Manchester derby.
Can I just ask a quick question of Fryer Tuck before we move on? United have really struggled since the retirement of Howard Webb. How much would that ref on the weekend cost in January?
Honest, that was Mike Dean as well. That was the same rep that Pearson had a bone to pick on. I actually think he got the decisions correct. I think he got.
You serious?
You're talking about the Palace game, right?
Talking about is it Fuchs leaving his leg out when Zaha went past him? That was pretty stone dead. And then the handball.
Handball, he couldn't move out of the way. We probably
move out of the way. It was like a long ball from 40 meters away.
As I said, it was natural. It came off. Nothing he could do about it unless he didn't have the arm there. So I think both of them were fair, to be honest.
All right. Well, we'll move on and chat about the Manchester derby then. And it was a pretty thrilling game, as you always get between these two sides, wasn't it? It's just.
Well, in theory, it was a very defensive game. I mean, both defenses were on top of their form. I mean, De Bruyne is still trying to find his way out of the shorts. Valencia played pretty well. Smalling and Jones were, again, good at the back. I mean, Otamendi was fantastic, and Company decided to show up against United, as per usual, the game-raising twat. But yeah, it's a defensive game. Pretty much the back sixes really dominated. I mean, Joe Hart did a few saves in the second half, but none of them were what you'd call super saves or great saves. And De Gea really just touched the ball a few times with his feet and occasionally caught it.
And it should be mentioned that it was Joe Hart's 100th clean sheet in the Premier League, which is quite an achievement for him. So that was well done to him. I think the commentators made a comment that both keepers could put their gloves away after the game and neither of them would have a mark on them. That was their level of involvement in the game.
Yeah, but the issue is with United is that, well, you look at Wayne Rooney's stats and they were just pathetic. I mean, honestly, I'll just bring them up, but he passing rate of about 55%. He got dispossessed. He lost the ball 25 times.
Jeez.
I mean, he killed all our attacks. Schmeichel came in one of the Scandinavian half times, and he full-on blasted him about where his position was, and they showed it, and it was just not number 9. And now the British media is starting to get on the case, so...
Do you reckon this is almost his final season for United?
Tim and Carrick will be gone by the end of the season.
Wow. Where would you see him going? Would you see him going back to Everton? Do you reckon they would value having him there, or is he not even up to that standard?
Not up to that standard. He's going to MLS. He looks... No, legit think about it. He's just turned 30 years old. How many games do you reckon he's played?
For his career?
Yeah, so far.
I think 500 maybe?
600 games.
600 games, okay. Cheers.
600 games. He's had 2 big injuries with his feet. The metatarsals in 2010 and the Achilles in 2006. One of them he came back too early from. Also, you add in his first touch has always been a bit inconsistent. Now it's a donkey, pretty much. And he hasn't treated his body well. Compare it to Ronaldo, who didn't drink, didn't smoke, didn't do that. Rooney
didn't
was a
shake
bit more...
grannies. I mean, sorry, I didn't say that.
But yeah, it's just Rooney's done. We need to put Martial in. We put Martial up front, we win.
Bojan, what are your thoughts on Rooney?
Well, I heard a couple of rumours today, and one could be one of those ones where it just kind of sounds logical because of the situation. But I remember when he was flirting with Chelsea a couple of years ago and for a new contract. And
was that 2010?
I think it was 2013 or something like that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's 2013. Well, it was basically, I think he got a new deal straight after Moyes came on.
Right.
Basically.
Because I remember there was a whole scandal in 2010 as well.
Yeah, there's been a couple with him, but I think David Gill had just retired, so he had Ed Woodward, new CEO, and had obviously David Moyes taking over. We won't talk too much about him, but apparently Rooney demanded a clause in his contract where when he's fit, he plays every week.
Which is it's just frankly ridiculous, and I mean, even from a player's point of view, would you really want something like that in your contract where you don't have that sort of challenge to really to train well and to play well if you know you're just going to start every week?
I couldn't agree more, but I guess for him it's more be a brand and image kind of protection thing. But the more I think about it, from what Putty said, either like Saudi Arabia, like Qatar, or MLS does make sense, because who else is going to pay the wages that he's going to require? He's not going to get. He's not going to get that kind of coin anywhere else in the world, because the big Spanish teams won't pay him that, and Everton would have to. Well, the cost of selling John Stones is probably a 5-year contract.
It's a bit sad because it would have been nice for him to sort of finish up back at Everton, and I think he, correct me if I'm wrong, but he did make a few noises that he wouldn't mind going back there at some point.
Yeah, he has. He has flirted with the idea. I'm not sure how seriously he's really kind of taking that, or whether it's kind of like Suarez said, I could see myself training back here one day about Anfield, where I'll try back. And I dare say it's the same with Rooney. The fairy tale would be if he just tells United to release him from his contract, walks back to Everton and starts playing there, and they won't really care. It's more about the local boy going back to the pub.
The shirt sales would be crazy.
Oh, yeah, correct. And on the derby, if Martial wasn't playing this game, it would have been diabolical. He was the only attacking threat in the whole game.
Oh, I thought Lingard, he got a good shot away and did do some runs.
Oh, well, yes, but all of Lingard's stuff was basically off of Martial.
Yeah.
But it was really noticeable to me that whenever United got the ball midfield, that just everyone just flipped out left to Martial. Everything went down the left to him and through him. They're not even looking to the right. The other rumour that was doing the rounds is that in January, United will pay up for Antoine Griezmann's release clause.
That would be a big one.
Okay, I'm going to need some new pants.
He'd be perfect if you had Martial and Griezmann as part of a front three with
Ashley Young. Bring Youngie on the left.
I'm going to say one matter, mate. But actually, he can come off the bench.
Well,
it's all right.
speaking of Lingard, and it was great to see him getting a run in the derby and very close to helping you across the line. But I wanted to sort of flip the coin a little bit and bring up Kiz's point on the board. And what do we make of City and not really giving their youngsters as much of a go? I mean, Ian Archer or whatever his name is managed to come on in place of Bonnie because Bonnie wasn't really much better. But guys like, is it Roberts, the guy they got from Fulham?
Yeah.
And guys like that, I mean, what do you make of them not really giving their youth a bit more of a go when, they're at 5-1 up against Bournemouth or they're,
Here's the thing about those sort of clubs. You're looking at Chelsea, City, PSG.
Here we go.
No, they're about brand name and all about, and they're a vanity project. Let's be honest. Why would you buy Manchester City? I mean, you're not doing it. Abu Dhabi Group are not doing it.
In their defense,
charity.
Well, in their defense, they have completely redone that whole area, redeveloped the whole area, and brought in the training facilities and all that sort of thing.
But they're still not doing it. They don't want a bog standard youth team. They want a Leo Messi. It's a vanity project. They don't really give a shit about the average players. They say they do, but they want Messi's, they want Iniestas, they want high quality.
I'll bring in Fryer Tuck here as a neutral and ask how you saw the derby. I don't know if you caught any of it, but what's your opinion on firstly Rooney and then also on these sorts of sides giving their youth a bit more of a run out, especially when they're pretty far in front in a game?
It's just amazing to me how far Rooney has just fallen off a cliff. I mean, at least he was somewhat serviceable last year, but as you know, I've been watching some England games and, God, what has happened to him? I mean, it's probably most likely burnout. I mean, as noted, he's been playing top flight since he was about 16, 17, and has just been going at it. Combined with the lack of self-care, and he's gone. I mean, Vardy's only a year younger, and look at him, he's getting better and better. But, I'm going to be right at that. But I'll say that's more due to experience. But he's burnt out, and so burnt out. I can't even see him starting for Everton as well. As you said, I can see him going to the MLS. Well, I would think the MLS. That seems more of a Rooney thing, really. In all honesty, I can see him going there for the big money, the fame, the fortune, and all that. Just the big image. It's what the Americans want. I can definitely see that. In regards to the youth, I think I've seen some of their development squad games. They've got some good youth prospects there, but if you're playing U21s, that's not going to give you the best. That's not going to give you the best image. As you've seen from Chelsea, they usually loan their players out to other clubs from a similar level to try find the best level and try to develop them from there. I mean, you're not going to hit Messi's and Iniestas every single time. I mean, you'll be lucky if you can, but I do admit that it would benefit the players if they did play at the high level. But at the same time, where are you going to find that? I mean, in Germany, Bayern Munich, they can definitely do that. They can definitely develop their youth, but in the Premier League, it's a lot harder to do so, in my opinion.
But surely when City beat Bournemouth, was it 5-1 last week, and they beat Newcastle 5-1 as well the week before that, or before the international break. In those sorts of games late on, for the last half an hour or so, and they were in front by that sort of margin with about half an hour to go. Surely the game's on ice. You bring on, some like a different player each week, or you give them mandated. You just have one sub put aside for that sort of situation when you're in this sort of run of form. And you just give those guys a bit of experience. I mean, you look at Southampton and they do something a little bit similar, where they do bring these guys through in kind of dribs and drabs and give them a bit of a taste and then send them back to the under-21s if they're not up for it.
I would agree. That would be a suitable situation, though. Weren't they 1-1 against Newcastle? I think No, sorry, 2-1 was it? So the game was still in the balance, and then I think Aguero scored 4 more after that. So I think half an hour there would have been a good opportunity. But yeah, those are the sorts of games you do want to bring them on, just to get them up to scratch, give them half an hour, see how they'll go. I think they've done all right in that aspect. I think one or two players, because I remember in the Leicester City games last season, they did, I think it was Pozo that played against us. They gave him a shot against us. But I think City do all right in that aspect, but they could do more.
I mean, you do compare it to United though. You had Wilson.
Where's Wilson been? I haven't seen Wilson in months.
Because there's a donkey in front of him. That's a giant waste of space.
He was correct. Donkey.
That's right.
There's some interesting stuff happening with Sydney. Man City's academy. They've spent huge amounts of money on it, but most of the products of that academy haven't played first team football. So the guys like Iniacho and Roberts, they're basically players bought for the first team squad, not for youth development. And that's actually a trend that's starting now, that the big clubs will wait till these kids hit 16 and then just go around the world poaching the best talents, because they reckon it's easier to identify them at that age than at the kind of traditional like 8, 9, 10.
Well, in fairness, I mean, it's the same strategy that we've used, because we've, for a long time, had quite a terrible academy, and then Bruce came in and basically identified that as an area where we were just so far behind the 8-ball. And we went to, even with non-league sides, we went and identified those, 19, 20, 21-year-old sort of guys who were playing quite well. And you stock up your academy with those sorts of guys a bit, and it sort of lifts the whole standard as well. So I don't mind it as a strategy.
I'm not saying it's a bad strategy. I'm just saying that's how it's trying to evolve for the big clubs. So there's less players coming through from real grassroots in the actual academy level all the way through. There's problems where you've got to be so accountable. If you're managing Man City, you're out there to win the league, and no one really cares about anything else but that. Yes. So to sacrifice, but you should, when you're 5-1 up, be able to do that.
As I said, it's still a vanity project for him.
Well, we'll move on then and chat about one of the other vanity projects in the league who are edging closer and closer to those dreaded relegation spots. And
we talk about Liverpool.
We'll get onto them in a second, but it says a lot that this result isn't actually that surprising. And I think all three of us, or the majority of the podcast last week, actually tipped West Ham. Some perhaps more jokingly than others, but it was a perfectly reasonable tip, and West Ham winning that game wasn't actually that surprising.
I mean, West Ham beat Liverpool, Arsenal, City, and Chelsea.
Yeah.
They're pretty much... They're not being relegated, guaranteed, just purely with those games alone.
Well, especially when you think, theoretically they've now got a much easier run to come, and they're sitting in third spot,
I mean,
didn't they get rolled by Bournemouth?
They did, actually, yeah. At home as well.
It's bizarre, ironic things.
And remember that Bournemouth's managed by this League 2 standard manager as well, so it's even worse.
Should go back there.
You should.
Yeah. On Chelsea, though.
Yeah.
Back then.
Sorry?
They still had their players back then.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's true. On Chelsea.
You just look at their signings, though. I mean, Bergovic, good signing. Baba Rahman, who's pretty much $14,000 accessory to a bench. Pedro, who started out good, but...
He didn't start on the weekend, did he? I've actually forgotten all about him.
Yeah. Falcao, who is...
Falcao?
Yeah, he's somehow even worse than Rooney. That's surprising. I never thought I would say those words, but there you go. But there was static in the transfer market. I mean, that killed us on the Moyes.
Yep.
And from there it goes on. And as I said last week about the rumours about Jose having a falling out with the power brokers at the club,
yeah.
Reports are coming out that it's exactly what's happening.
The real power brokers.
Not Eva.
Not Eva, yeah.
Or Mariana.
We've been talking about it we're talking about it this morning on the board about whether or not he'd be sacked and what his payout would be and that sort of thing. And Chef was very skeptical that he'd be paid out, what was it, 40 or 50 million pounds that I think his contract's worth. But you'd have to think, if that's the case, if he's only going to get paid out, say, 20, 25 million or whatever the figure is, it's got to be getting reasonably close to the point where Abramovich pulls the trigger. If they slip up at all in the Champions League, that might be it.
As I said, apparently with the goose hitting coming in, that might not be a good idea. And Carlo Ancelotti.
Well, you know, Chelsea have had so many managers in the last, 9 years, that they're just on to the second round around the merry-go-round, aren't they?
Yes, scientists have estimated that everyone will be close to a Chelsea manager by 2020.
well, Fryer Tuck, you got to be worried because Ranieri is probably one of the main candidates as well.
I'll make a statement right now. He will return to Stamford Bridge. He will return in May.
To relegate them. Please relegate them. Don't think anything could bring me more joy than seeing Chelsea relegated.
Liverpool getting relegated?
I think if it was a choice between Hull promotion and Chelsea relegation, I would choose Chelsea relegation, just so that we could do the double over them as we go up the following season.
But what if both happened at the same time? How would you feel?
Oh, it'd be even better. I mean, as I've joked with Bojan on the board a couple of times, I'd love to wave at them as we go past.
Well, there you go. If you're a Abu Dhabi sheikh or a Middle Eastern sheikh with a spare couple billion, invest in Hull.
We're on the way up. We'll get on to Hull a bit later on, but we'll chat about Aston Villa now, who this morning announced that they'd parted ways with Tim Sherwood. And I want to get your thoughts on it, guys, because I'm actually quite annoyed that they've pulled the trigger so early, but I don't know, you guys might see that differently.
Same here. This is the third Villa game I've seen where they've been like really unlucky and lost in a tight game. They didn't deserve to lose this game on the weekend. As I said, I've only seen 3 or 4 Villa games this year, and every time they've been pretty unlucky. I don't think it's him. I don't think he's the problem there. They haven't got enough talent.
As I said, they sold what? They sold Benteke, probably their best player. They lost Ron Vlaar on a free. Dolph went as well. It's just... And
that's essentially your spine right there.
Yeah. They didn't really replace him that well, and...
Well, you look at Rudy Gestede, who's come in, and he's scoring goals. He scored a couple against Liverpool. He scored against Bournemouth, I think, on the opening day. They've brought in Jordan Ayew, who scored his first goal for them against Swansea, and it looks like he's starting to gel into the side. I think I'm with Bojan. I just think it's quite harsh to say that, you know, you sell your best talent, and then you expect them to click straight away.
They gave Paul Lambert like 2 years playing absolute rubbish.
Well, I was chatting to a mate about this morning, and I reckon what they've done is they've overcorrected. They've gone, well, geez, we gave Lambert too much time, so we've got to pull the trigger quicker. And they've gone after, 6 months?
Yeah, it's too soon. I mean, the one mistake that was noticeable that he made on the weekend was making Micah Richards captain. He lost the plot completely in this game. Probably should have been sent off for trying to headbutt one of the Swansea defenders about 50 yards off the ball. Like he stayed up for a corner kick and tried to headbutt one of the Swansea defenders, and the ball's the other end of the pitch. Who should have got back? And then he gave away with a stupid challenge, a free kick in the edge of the box, which Sigurdsson scored from. So he had an absolute bloody mare. But yeah, pretty stiff on Tactic's team. I notice there's a lot of hate from him on the board. I guess when you're an Arsenal supporting Spurs player, there's always going to be some controversy there from both sides. But yeah, very stiff.
What's your thoughts on this one, Fryer Tuck? How did you see it? Well,
Isn't it?
both the game and the sacking, I guess.
Well, so I didn't catch much of the game to be honest, but hey, I think what is it? 8 losses in a row or something like that.
I think it's 6. I think 6 is the stat. Yeah.
Yeah, only 4 points, and they invested a fair bit. I think they invest. I think it was about 50 million they invested in the market, and they got some decent talents. I felt one of them, Ventrilla, was one of our targets, but he chose Villa over us. Well, to be fair, I felt that was reasonable because they were the ones that did offer first, and we were trying to snatch him, but. Yeah, he hasn't impressed much at all. And in the Villa, and when they came over, I wasn't really that impressed with them, to be honest. I mean, they took the chances, which was good, but
Well, that's right. They went up 2-0 against you, didn't they?
that's correct. But then I'd say Ranieri's tactics was good, but equally well, just as much. Sherwood's tactics were horrible, to be honest. I don't know what he was trying to do. I mean, I know we're pretty good at the comeback, but come on, you should. I mean, this was 70th minute as well, and
The thing. Sorry.
well, once that first goal went in, I felt like we were going. I felt like we were going to win it from there. To be honest, they were completely gone after that.
I do, yeah. I mean, I do remember watching that game, and you could sense that Leicester had that game in the bag. But I mean, just on the fact that they're on 4 points, and I do completely accept that 4 points from 10 games is a pretty dismal return. But you just think if they win their next game, or if they get a win in the next couple of games, because I can't see the other sides around them jumping up too quickly. They're not. They're only so they're 4 points behind Bournemouth and 5 points behind Norwich. But it's not as if they're adrift at the bottom by a significant margin. When a manager gets you to the FA Cup final and keeps you up and does seem to be changing the style of play at the club, I think you've got to give him a bit of time to bed in the new players and at least give him till December, I guess, before the January window opens.
Also, just as a point of note, I feel very sorry for the next guy that's going to be coming in. Tottenham, Man City, and Everton for his first 3 games. I guess also Southampton if they could get one in by then, but that's a hellish 3 games to be initiated to. So
well, we alluded to him earlier, but is there any chance of Mr. Moyes making an appearance at Villa Park?
I was more thinking maybe
Or the B-Rog?
Mr. Mourinho.
No, that'd be too much of a step up for him. I don't think he's ready for Aston Villa yet. Cut his teeth on a couple of the second string sides.
There is a certain other manager that did manage a certain Midlands team.
Yes.
Got their eye on.
Well, he's still off porking an ostrich, isn't he? So it will be. I mean, look, if they bring in someone like a Brendan Rodgers or a David Moyes, who I'm not even suggesting that they could get that sort of manager, but if they did, then I could understand the sacking. I could understand they had a plan in place. But if it's just another sort of panic sacking, and they'll bring in some obscure manager that no one's really heard of or hasn't had a gig in a couple of years, I can't really justify it.
Either Preki or Bob Bradley might work.
Yeah. Well, someone like that. I mean, I just wouldn't understand the motivation.
Rudy just said would suit Moyes, I think. He'd suit the old school Everton days where they had Duncan Ferguson, they just pump it up to him. I think he'd be quite good there.
Yeah, I think he would be in his element if he was given control of Aston Villa. I think he could turn that club around because that club has got a lot of culture problems and well, he did pretty well for Everton. I think they were 17th when he took over and he turned them quite respectable. So I think he would be a good grab if they did actually have that in place, but we'll just have to wait and see.
Well, we'll talk about his old club now, and Arsenal got a 2-1 win over Everton. All 3 goals scored in a pretty short space of time. Arsenal have a very good record over Everton at the Emirates, and it was a relatively routine win for them in the end. I mean, Everton had a couple of chances to peg one back, but even their goal was pretty lucky for Barkley. I mean, he was aiming for the bottom corner and takes a wicked deflection and goes in top corner of the opposite side. But Arsenal go top of the league. Well, they did until City overtook them.
Yes. You go first.
This game was quite interesting for a couple of reasons. But I mentioned last week that in the United-Everton game, Van Gaal pushed Martial wide, and he really pedged Coleman back. And it was quite noticeable that when he did that, Everton really had nothing going forward, and Bender clearly watched that and told Sanchez to do the same thing. Because whenever the ball wasn't going down the right flank and through, and to Coleman to cross the ball in, they really didn't offer anything at all. Both teams had their chances. I thought Tim Howard was at fault big time in this game for two of the goals. He's always been a very good shot stopper, but he looks slower than Rooney at the moment.
He was very timid for the the first goal.
Well, I thought both goals, but definitely the first goal. He's got to come out there.
Yeah.
And you know how in the old days, it's kind of like you go out and you'll try and punch it. And if you don't punch the ball, just collect the striker and put him off. He's got to do that in that situation because he just stops there and Giroud's basically heading it straight in front of him and just flicking it on. So he's no chance at that stage. He's got to come there and punch it out. And I even thought for that second goal, I think it was Shelny scored from a crossing.
Yeah, it was.
He should be trying to get in front there and punching. And but it wasn't his fault. But I thought John Stones was pretty poor in this game.
Maybe trying to put off a few Chelsea suitors.
Maybe he doesn't fancy the championship.
Yeah, exactly. We'll also chat quickly about the Tyne-Wear derby, where Sunderland ran out pretty predictable 3-0 winners in the end, and I do feel sorry for NUFC, who was on the podcast last week. So a pretty predictable result in the end, but the manner of the performance was quite good from Newcastle, but the manner of the sending off, quite questionable. How did you guys see it?
You go
Fryer
first.
Tuck, sorry. Oh, okay. Bojan?
I thought it was fairly shoulder to shoulder, to be honest. I thought the attacker went down pretty softly.
It was shoulder to shoulder, but was it really necessary? According to the rule book, it was definitely a foul. Penalty, I'm leaning on that side. It would be a penalty. Red card, no, that was a bit too harsh. I did say in my post it was fitting because Newcastle getting all of the possession and then they'll do something stupid that just gives any excuse to just throw the game away like that. I mean, as the captain, you shouldn't. I mean, your keeper's got it. There was need for that, and they paid dearly for that, unfortunately.
It's just incredible that it's four Sunderland managers in a row now where they've not only have they had their second game as the Tyne-Wear derby, but they've won the game as well. And it's gotten to the point where you think it must just be a playbook from Sunderland. The Tyne-Wear derby's coming up. Oh, we'll sack the manager 2 games beforehand, give him 1 game to settle in, and then, off we'll go. He'll win the Tyne-Wear derby. Everyone will love him. And by the time they get sick of him, we'll just sack him again.
Well, that's Sunderland's ambition for you.
Yeah.
It's just make sure you do the double over Newcastle and just survive the Premiership for another year so you can do it again.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I think the last time Newcastle beat Sunderland was when there was a certain Mr. Bruce managing Sunderland, and there was a 5-1 victory for Newcastle. So I don't think he'll be. I actually saw a quote from Big Sam during the week that he chatted to Steve Bruce about taking the job because I think they're quite good friends. And Bruce just kept moaning about that loss in the derby and just said, "Whatever you do, just don't lose the derby." So all worked out for Allardyce. Didn't work out for Eddie Howe though at Bournemouth, who apparently should be managing a League Two side because his side went down 5-1 to Spurs, and Harry Kane managed to get a hat trick. So I guess whoever the poster was that said that must be right, because if you're conceding a hat trick to Harry Kane, your side mustn't be too much chop. But did either of you catch this one, or I guess you were watching the Manchester derby?
Yeah, watching the derby. Didn't see it.
Missed all the goals. Richie scored the fastest goal of the season after 49 seconds to put them in front.
I'll be honest. When I woke up, I went to check the results. My first thought is, please Tottenham do not win. And then I saw, please do not let Kane get a hat trick. It was always going to be that. I mean, as I said, as a Leicester fan, I don't exactly have very good memories of Harry Kane, and well, I suppose with my recent English interests, even more so. But fair play to the lad to actually take advantage and grab the game by the scruff.
Terrible goalkeeping though.
Terrible.
And I think I find. Have you seen the highlights, Bojan? Because I think I've seen a save that finally is worse than Alan McGregor's.
I don't have to say it. Can you describe it briefly?
I knew you would be able to.
Who was it? Was it Kane put the cross in? Barouk tried to catch the ball in front of goal on his knees, and the ball just slips out from between his hands, and Kane just taps it in. And it was
I did see that.
It was just dreadful.
That was horrendous.
And guys were giving Fediarci much chop last week.
Well, I mean, I actually thought that was Federici playing last night. I didn't realise that Barouk was back, and I gave him too much credit to think that he wouldn't have been that poor.
Well, to be fair, he was pretty decent against us. So,
Yeah.
No, I don't know what's happened. Up to their goalkeepers. I mean, okay, Fediarci I can kind of understand, but Boak's been pretty good. But guess it wasn't his game, to be unfortunately.
And another guy it wasn't his game was Jurgen Klopp, who couldn't manage to get a home victory, despite the fact that Benteke scored quite a good goal towards the end of that one. Southampton managed to peg it back.
Oh, fantastic.
And it was Gaston Ramirez who managed to fire the header over for Mane to bundle into the net, and I think it's probably the best thing he's done in about 18 months, because he was terrible for us on loan.
Liverpool should buy him.
Well, I think Southampton are trying to desperately offload him because he was a flop with us. Southampton didn't want him. I was actually surprised he was on the pitch against Liverpool.
He'd be on decent cash, wouldn't he? Wasn't he a decent signing for
He
him?
was 12 million or something, so he was quite expensive. He had a very, very good season in Italy with, I think it was Bologna.
Yeah.
And he was, I assume he was probably rated on the same level as, say, an Eric Lamela. And I guess he's just not come on very well. He had flashes with us, but never anything too consistent.
I didn't see this game, but I will note, I did note that Brendan Rodgers started with 2 victories out of his first 3 games at the club. So he's already gone past and shown far greater character than Jurgen.
We should keep a tracker of who's ahead on points as Klopp progresses in his Liverpool career.
Probably, I think
Klopp would want to have a very good second season.
We should override the draft of the Liverpool boom bust cycle with the draft of Liverpool's thoughts about Klopp.
Yeah.
So at the moment they're up there. He's pretty much like the combination of Paisley, Shankly, and Ferguson in one at the moment. So yeah, let's see how he goes.
Well, speaking of great managers, then Bournemouth scoring that goal after 49 seconds meant that Hull City now have the joint best defensive record in England, with a 2-0 victory over Birmingham on the weekend, which was which capped off a pretty impressive week for us all round, with a 3-0 win midweek against Ipswich after your kiss of life for us, Bojan. It was very well timed. But we're now up into the top 2 with the best goal difference in the league, and all in time for the midweek game against Leicester. So we'll chat about the League Cup games now. We've got. Well, I'll go over the other ones first, just briefly. I mean, we've got United up against Borough on Thursday morning, Bojan. So that should be pretty straightforward for you guys.
I will be absolutely furious if Anthony Martial goes anywhere near this game. James Wilson bloody playing.
Got his name all over it?
Oh, he's got to. He's got to play Wilson. He's got to play Pereira. He's got to play Lingard, who did very well on the weekend. The depth's there. The kids are there. I mean, I can't imagine what Tizra and Moomba are thinking about with the amount of, kids on the bench for them not having games. But, we don't need Martial for Borough in the Cup. This is the League Cup here. I don't give a shit anyway. So,
but, Borough are in quite good form, and it does come down to how highly you rate the Cup. But I would expect, even so, with your second string, you should still be putting Borough away.
Yeah, well, it's not even like your second string, really. Like our second string would be, Daley Blind playing, Victor Valdez playing, obviously James Wilson,
Young, all that sort of stuff.
Michael Carrick, Ashley Young. These are like pretty credentialed England internationals. Phil Jones.
Yeah.
It's just, these aren't bad players. They should be able to get the job done.
Yeah.
Well, just as a note, they've got the same goal difference as Hull: 20 goals for and 9 goals against. So
is this United?
No, this is Middlesbrough.
Middlesbrough, yep, yeah.
Fine, we'll just play De Gea and no one will score anyway. De Gea to play.
Chelsea have Stoke, and it's an interesting run of 4 games for them. It got pointed out to me yesterday that they've got Stoke in the League Cup, then they've got whoever they played in the Champions League, they've got them at home, and then they've got Stoke in the league, I think, or they've got someone else in the league first, and then they've got Stoke in the league. So it could be a very dangerous run for them. They've got Liverpool next, and then Stoke in the league. Could be a very dangerous run for them. Do we see Stoke as almost essentially favourites for this one?
No, Watford absolutely belted them on the weekend. Troy Deeney, there's some do, his first Premier League goal. Watford, I'm telling you, Watford destroyed them. Destroyed them.
Well, maybe Stoke were saving themselves for the midweek game.
Well, it could be a dire game if that's the form they're going into. The form of those two sides.
Yeah.
I'm just wondering who's going to score. I'm just wondering who's going to score for them. I mean, Ballon did have a bit of an off game, but he's been pretty good for the season otherwise, and I can't see Chelsea scoring too much against Stoke, to be honest. So that's going to be, it is going to be dire, but we'll just see. It might go down to penalties, I'd say, for that game. It's a very dire affair, unfortunately.
We've also got Arsenal up against Sheffield Wednesday in the other Premier League against non-Premier League opposition, and we suspect Arsenal should take care of them pretty easily.
Oh, yeah. Easy.
And then we've got Liverpool, Bournemouth, City Palace, Villa, Southampton, and Everton, Norwich. But obviously the main game of the League Cup 4th round, Hull City up against Leicester. So we'll go into that one now to finish off the podcast. And Fryer Tuck, I'll get your thoughts first on Leicester and what sort of team you guys will be looking to put out in this one.
Well, you saw what team I put out, and I feel that's the direction Ranieri's going to go. He is going to do a mostly reserves team, and I'll be honest, this is the first time I feel really good about our depth. There is some genuine quality there that could make our first team. Wazzle and Benny, I believe, have looked more impressive compared to our regulars in Huth and Morgan. So I think they'll be pretty good. But Delat and Chilwell is going to be where you are going to take advantage of. Chilwell is going to get better. Delat's.
So is Chilwell your right back? Left back?
He's left back.
Okay.
That's a really tough gig. I mean, Schlupp and Fuchs, they've been really good for us. I think we had Chesky last.
And Schwarzer in goal?
Schwartz is going to be in goal, yes.
And up front, who do you reckon?
I reckon it's going to be Kramaric and Ujela if he's fit. Although I do get the feeling he might be rested for West Brom, where he is going to be needed a lot more against the tall defense that Pulis likes to play. So it's either going to be, it's definitely Kramaric. I might lean towards Okazaki getting the start for this game.
And do you see? I mean, we've talked about them a lot earlier because they're your two danger men. But Mahrez and Vardy nowhere near this game, or would you have someone like a Mahrez on the bench if you were, or when you are losing?
I think we're going to. I think we're going to have Mahrez, Schlopp, and Albrighton on the bench as emergency backup. Vardy will not be anywhere near this game.
Well, it'll be interesting to see. I would like to see us go up against Mahrez to see how we go. Was he the one that scored the winner at the KC back in last December?
He was, yes.
Yeah. I think
you have a pick with him.
I do remember that goal because I remember thinking he hadn't done much in the Premier League before then from memory. And it was sort of, geez, of course he's going to stand up and score a goal like this against us. And in a way, it's kind of good that he's come on as he has, that it sort of wasn't just a one-off.
I think, our guys needed a bit of time to adjust to Premier League life. And, amazing what you can do when you're actually playing your usual attacking game, going for the win rather than sitting back going for nil-all draws, isn't it now?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's something that you could teach Steve Bruce, although in the last couple of games he seems to have realised Huddleston's a bit slow. Drop Huddleston and suddenly we look a little bit quicker. So I mean that's almost the most dangerous thing about this game is whether if we start Huddleston I'd almost write us off because of the way that we play without him. But interestingly we've got two centre backs who are now injured in Curtis Davies and also Alex Bruce who just picked up a mild knock. So there's been a bit of a discussion amongst Hull fans about who we start at centre back because we've got Harry Maguire, who I rate quite highly, who looks quite good, and we've also got Michael Dawson. But whether we whether we play Michael Dawson in this game, given he played midweek last week, so it's not as if he can't do 2 games in a week, but I guess it would show how much Bruce rates this game, whether he puts a relatively full-strength side or whether he puts in Isaac Hayden, for instance, who's barely played for us recently. And I think Wenger's even talking of cutting short the loan because he's just not needed in our side at the moment. But similar to you guys, I mean, we've got guys like Mo Diami, Sean Maloney, Tom Huddleston, who I've just mentioned as well, Shoni Aluko up forward as well, who've barely played in the last couple of weeks because of the players who have started. The only players I'd say with any certainty that will rest will be Abel Hernandez, who's been in absolutely stellar form, but has played a huge amount of games in the last few weeks. And he's got 7 goals in 9 games, which is a pretty decent return for him. McGregor, I think, will probably start in goal. The fullbacks, I think, will probably still be Robertson and Odebajo. I can't see him resting either of them because they should be fine. It's the midfield, I think, which will be a bit unpredictable. I think Livermore will probably get a rest. Myler might get a rest, but he also might start because he's still looking fabulous, and he's scored 2 goals in 2 games, even though he's a downhill skier, according to some. But it'll be quite interesting because as you say, it's your fullbacks who are the issues, and if we start El Mohammadi and Klukas, who've both looked very good in recent games, or even Maloney instead of Klukas, for instance, we've got a lot of threat out wide, and whether it's Akpom in the middle for us up forward, who's on the end of those crosses, or whether we bring in Aluko or someone like that, I think it'll be a very, very interesting game. I think we've only conceded 2 goals at home all season. We didn't concede to Swansea, who are Premier League opposition. Yeah, it'll be a fascinating one. I mean, I had a look at the odds just before, and I'll say, kiddies listening in, gamble responsibly. But the odds are very close. I mean, I think you're slight favourites. You're at 237 and we're at 287. But the bookmakers are saying I mean, they've put Chelsea as stronger favourites against Stoke than you against us.
Well, I think they would have. I think they would have every right to. because you guys have been pretty good, and to be honest, I think we've got a fair bit of work to. I think we've got a fair bit of work to cut out there. The home advantage definitely goes in your favour. You have been pretty good defensively. As I said, there's still some uncertainty on Ujoa and Kramaric. Kramaric has got no confidence whatsoever. He has a lot. He has a lot to prove this game.
It's gonna be interesting because I think both sides have a lot of players who'll have a lot to prove. So I think that's probably where it'll be decided.
I think Kramaric has the most to prove out of all of them. He's come in, bags of talent, scored I think about 25 goals in 20 games or something in the Croatian First Division. Won the Golden Boot amazingly, despite the fact he didn't play for half the season. But ever since he's come to us, what do you do? What do you do with him? I mean, his biggest thing is he scores goals, but in the way we play, he doesn't really have a role.
How many goals did he score for you guys last season? I mean, I think I remember him scoring against, was it Arsenal?
I think he scored.
I have this memory of him scoring against Arsenal. I can't
scored.
remember.
I think he scored 2 goals.
Right.
Arsenal and QPR off the bench.
You should send him on loan to Bournemouth.
I would love that, and
no, but they've got Glenn Murray, who you know all about, don't you, Bojan?
Inside out, his whole career. Well, his whole career in the last 5 games. But no, well, they could use him to replace Callum Wilson, play 2 up top.
Yeah.
And because you paid good money for him, and he hasn't been cited, so your resale value is going to be bugger all. If he doesn't fit into your system, loan him out, get him scoring, and then at the end of the season you'll be able to sell him off for decent money. There's no point keeping him in the twos. Is Tom Lawrence playing anymore?
Tom Lawrence is on loan to Blackburn, and I believe he's actually been one of their better players, if not one of their best. I think he's got a few assists and a goal, if I recall correctly. So he's definitely doing well in the championship level. He's just missing that little bit extra to land himself in the Premier League. I can't see him starting at the moment, but if he keeps developing, keeps proving himself at Blackburn, I think he will get a good look in, but not at this point in time.
He's still young.
How do you see this one as a neutral, Bojan? How do you split the two sides?
Well, so what? We're looking at Leicester's reserves against Hull's first team, minus Abel Hernandez.
Yeah, probably first team minus a couple of players, yeah.
Just remember, Bojan, we won against West Ham's virtual first team with our reserves.
Yeah, but that's West Ham. They're not Hull.
Yeah, that's yeah. True point, Matt.
Given the way the predictions went last week, I'll have to say Leicester 5-0.
Oh, thanks. Thank you. Look, I'll chuck the money on now for the 3-0 Hull win.
Not intended to be a...
Well, it was interesting when Birmingham came to the KC on the weekend. They were undefeated away from home, and I think they'd scored in every away game. And they'd won 4 games in a row as well. And we put them to the sword inside 90 seconds. So we're getting our practice in, beating teams in blue who are undefeated away from home. And look, I mean, it'll be... Sorry?
Fighting words.
Look, I think it'll be a tight game. I think the way we're playing, the way we're quite defensively solid, the only issue I can see is if someone like Maguire at centre-back is a bit rusty because he hasn't had many starts for us in recent times. I can't see Bruce gambling and putting Hayden next to him, but if he did, then I would probably write the game off, just because I just don't think they're experienced enough in defence. But if he does start Dawson, if he doesn't start Huddleston, I would give us a fairly good chance. The only worry I'll have is if he does start Hernandez, because he foolishly thinks, as he sometimes does, the player will be right, we'll just keep pushing him on. Because my biggest fear would be Hernandez getting injured, us losing to you guys, and then our best goal scorer for the season's kind of, out for a month or something. So I'm actually quite hopeful that he doesn't start Hernandez and that we see Akpom and Aluko together. Because their pace, I mean, as you were saying before, that your fullbacks are a bit iffy. I mean, if we can get a bit of pace and running at those fullbacks, then it'll be interesting. Because I mean, you guys have scored in every game this season, I think. Whereas
That's correct. Yes.
whereas we've been quite a strong defensive side. So we'll see which sort of style comes out on top, I guess. It's quite frustrating this game isn't televised.
Well, I know, but I know where I'm going to be watching that game. That's for sure.
Where are you going to watch it? Oh, well, you can tell me after the podcast, maybe.
I can definitely do that.
No worries.
Did anyone see the West Brom Norwich game?
I saw the goal, I think, if I'm remembering the goal correctly. Was that the Berahino goal?
Rondon.
Sorry. No, I think
He had
I missed that
about 5 clear-cut chances and finally put one away. And then Ian Wright, match of the day, was talking about how much of a great striker he was, despite the fact he missed like 3 1-on-1s. It's like the
in
idiot.
fairness, he has looked alright in some of his games. I think probably his best game, no surprises, was against Chelsea, because they're just letting everyone play well against them. But I mean, it's a strange one because he kind of reminds me of their last striker in Brownie Day, where Brown looked alright in patches, but also looked a complete flop at other times. And I think he's off on loan or sold to a Champions League club.
Do you say Champions League?
Yeah, because I remember watching the midweek Champions League game and he scored the winner for someone whose name has escaped me.
Jesus.
Let's look it up now.
A couple of things about this game that stood out. Mate, Robbie Brady is actually a pretty good player.
Olympiacos is where he's at. Olympiacos.
Oh, Olympiacos.
But there you go. Yeah, Robbie. Yeah, I mean he's looking okay.
He's tidy. He's tidy.
Yeah, well, frustrating thing for us was always.
Don't be bitter.
No. Oh, a little, maybe a little. He always looked much better for Ireland. His free kicks, his pace, his crosses were always very good. And his first season in the Premier League with us, he was able to bring those sorts of skills to the fore. And I think that's because we started our first Premier League season, if I'm remembering correctly, in a slightly different formation where he was in a much more attacking role. But as he got injured for most of that season, and then last season he was playing more as a wing back. And I think Norwich are probably getting the best out of his talents because they're playing him in a much more advanced position. Which, yeah, I mean, good on him, good for him. And in a game between Norwich and West Brom where it was the two former Hull players, I'm very happy to see Brady starting. But at the same time, I'm pretty devastated that Chester's rotting on their bench.
Yeah.
And it's a sad sight because he's a very, very skillful player, and you just watch him play for Wales. And through that qualifying campaign, guys like Ashley Williams and Gareth Bale were praising Chester's defensive ability. He didn't look out of place at all in that Welsh side, alongside pretty decent players in defence, at least with Ashley Williams, and also you got your Gareth Bales and Aaron Ramseys and stuff. And then he goes to West Brom and Pulis thinks he's a right back, plays him at right back, realises that he's crap at right back and drops him.
I suspect he won't be in a job at the start of next season, Tony Pulis.
Yeah?
Yeah, I don't think so. But I'll tell you what, miss of the season in this game. If you only just saw like a snippet of the highlights or the goal, you wouldn't have seen it. Craig Dawson.
Oh, mate, he's in my fantasy side.
He had a towering header inside the 6-yard box.
Oh, no.
Which he headed directly into the ground with great power. So much power, in fact, that it bounced up over the crossbar.
Oh, no.
Inside the 6-yard box.
Oh, no.
Oh, that's...
It was an exceptional bit of skill. It really was. Like, you got to be pretty shit out of luck for that to happen.
Oh, dear. Well, I might grab some closing thoughts from you guys. We'll go Fryer Tuck first.
All I can say is enjoy your Halloween. It's going to be a scary one.
Very nice. Very nice.
I don't really have anything for you this week except to gloat about the demise of Chelsea and Liverpool. So I'll leave it at that.
It's always a fun week when they fail to get wins.
Yeah.
I'm just hoping it's a great game Wednesday morning. I'm actually very excited. If we win that, it's the first time we've ever gotten to the quarterfinals, and as kind of small time as that sounds, it'll be quite exciting, and it would be a great stat for Steve Bruce. He'd take us on our biggest cup run in the FA Cup, biggest run in the League Cup. Against Ipswich midweek, he actually overtook Phil Brown for games managed for us. And back in the day, if you thought of Hull City, you thought of Phil Brown with his tangerine face and his headset, and running down the sideline, fist pumping after Giovanni scored a goal against Arsenal. But Steve Bruce has now overtaken him as the face of Hull City, I guess. So it could be a big week for him.
It's a pretty face too.
Well, if we win ugly against Leicester, it's still a win, so I'll take that. Anyway, thanks so much for coming on, boys.
No worries, mate.
And also thanks to Cooksen, who made it on for the first half before having to drop off. And thank you all for listening in. Until Thursday or Friday, the next time we record with previews of the weekend's Premier League games. Until then, hopefully your side wins, unless you're Fryer Tuck or Jats. And until then, we'll see you on the forums.